In the movie Spider-Man No Way Home, main character Peter Parker gets portrayed by the media as a bad guy. His identity is discovered, or you could say Spider-Man's real identity gets discovered as Peter Parker. And so as a result of this negative image portrayed by the media, all of the Peter's and his friends' college applications get rejected as a result. And Peter gets anxious and very desperate, and he feels guilty that because of him and association with him, his friends cannot live normally anymore. And he decides to take a radical step. He turns to Wizard, Doctor Strange, and asks him to do a very complicated timeline altering spell that can mess up the universe. And what this spell would do, it would allow that all of the people of the world would forget Spider-Man's real identity, Peter Parker. And in response, Doctor Strange asks Peter if he had tried to do some phone calls to talk with the college management before he turned to the Doctor Strange. And Peter is stunned by this question, because in essence it's very simple and quite obvious thing to do. And Peter says, "Can you actually do that?" And this scene to me was very priceless. It gave me an insight, and I want to a little bit expand more on that. Instead of trying out simple human stuff, making a phone call, Peter turns to obviously a lot more complicated superhero level solution. And it made me realize that we humans also tend to overcomplicate things quite often in our lives, and we often start with more difficult solutions that require more effort than the simple ones, the simple action steps that we can take first before turning to the more complex solutions. And this happens because our state of consciousness does not allow us to perceive the more basic, the simple things to do. And especially if we are in a state of stress, anxiety, panic, fear. So being in a state of calmness, relaxation, most of the time gives us a quite different picture, a different perception, and allow us to perceive more easy solutions. Before we rush to ask for help to someone else and pass the burden to someone else of getting things done, it is valuable to think if we haven't missed or skipped any more any simple steps that we could take, maybe even two obvious steps that we could take before we decided to ask for assistance and support to other people. Something that we could do ourselves, and we often miss these things as opportunities to do them by ourselves because they are overshadowed by our negative assumptions and beliefs in that moment. That prevents us from seeing the simple steps as viable options to try out. And these assumptions and beliefs in nature are negative, and what is even more important, they are untested, unchecked. But we still perceive them as valid, and we carry on with a different approach. What many people have noticed is that generations of people have been trained, have been taught, and even traumatized not to take the basic action steps, not to seek their own solutions. Instead, they decide to delegate this function to someone else, some other external authority that can do things in their place, that can provide already ready-made solution and answers. And if people who decide to delegate their own responsibility of coming up with solutions to their own life situations and life problems, quite often, then they deny their own doer. They deny their own potential, their innate capabilities, their strength, their power. All of it gets denied. And if such thing is being practiced a lot, then it becomes like a habit even. And it becomes almost like a taken for granted that someone else is gonna do a certain thing for you or instead of you, and that you won't need to make an effort for it. And it can even reach an extreme levels of being entitled, demanding this to happen. If this becomes a habit, then obviously it's more easy, it's faster, it's more comfortable, and we can even say to ourselves that the other person, that external authority, is probably smarter and better than us in this specific thing, and they should do this thing instead of us. And I'm not advocating a lifestyle when we as individuals should be doing everything by ourselves, because that's way too extreme. Obviously, there are competencies that are out of our field of expertise, our experience, and etc. What I am saying is that sometimes doing things that are uncomfortable, out of your zone of genius, unknown, new, provides a great learning, a a space for growth. And it can also give us confidence that we can actually do things that are new to us and that were unknown to us before. And we are doing them now. Even if it is slower and maybe not as efficient as other individuals can do it, but it can give us important also insights about ourselves and about our life. And I feel and believe that it is very important to strive for balance in the moments when you can do things by yourself, and moments when you truly realize that you need an external help, and then you seek for it. Otherwise, if we get too dependent on external help, that will lead to our potential being degenerated, or the word is degradation of our innate potential. We regularly, as humans, underestimate our own capabilities, and we tend to overestimate other people's capabilities and our need for their assistance. And yes, sometimes adopted new ways of other people can serve us in certain situations, but quite often they may not be the most optimal way for us to do the specific thing. There is a spectrum. On the one side, there are people who are trying to do all the things by themselves, way too much. And what they would benefit from is actually starting to delegate more responsibility to other people in their lives, that they don't have to do it all by themselves. And on the other far side, the other spectrum is where people are relying too much on external source of authority, answers, help, etc. It's almost like they are being pampered too much. And what they need to do is they need to start taking more action by themselves, recognize it, that they can actually do also things. And even if they don't know at first, they can learn and acquire new skills as other people have done. And only through this, their inner potential will awaken and open up, and they will become more empowered. So, where do you see yourself in this spectrum? On the side that you're doing way too much by yourself, and more on the side that you're not doing enough by yourself and you're relying too much on other people? Maybe you are in between, in balance. And you can ask yourself, is it happening? Is this balance, or you being more on one spectrum than the other, is it manifesting in general in your life, or maybe more specifically in a certain area of your life? that is maybe very important to you. This is a message especially to those who have been struggling with taking action, embodying the doer, and finding their own solutions, answers within. And this is a message and confirmation that you are more capable than you think. Allow your inner potential to awaken through dealing with challenging situations, no matter how grand or small they may seem to you, on a daily basis. I wish you good luck.